The National Guard is the oldest component of the United States Armed Forces. An outgrowth of the volunteer militia, it traces its history back to the earliest English colonies in North America. Major Wayne Morris, who has been a reservist since 1981, describes how the Guard began.
Well, the Guard as a whole has its roots in the settlements up and down the East Coast during the 1600s. And in Maryland, it's the settlement at St. Mary's, which in the mid-1600s, when the English settlers came over, there were two English captains who started a militia, and the idea was that farmers and settlers would come together in time of crisis to help protect the group.
Today, each state, each territory, and the District of Columbia has its own National Guard. Here in Maryland, the Guard has two missions.
One, during normal times, is the state mission where the governor is our commander-in-chief. And we're available to him for certain things like snow removal or civil unrest or any mission that he deems necessary to call out the Guard. Now, besides that, there's also a federal mission, and that's when we become federalized during time of war or after September 11th, perhaps, when we were called up to do homeland defense. We become federalized, and then our commander-in-chief is the President of the United States. So we have two parallel missions.
The Maryland National Guard has figured prominently throughout U.S. military history. In 1776, 400 Marylanders traveled to New York and held back the British, allowing General Washington to escape with his men. During the War of 1812 at the Battle of North Point in Baltimore, Maryland militia held back British troops as they moved to attack Fort McHenry. Less than 50 years later, Maryland militia fought again, this time under very divisive circumstances.
During the Civil War, Maryland was split apart. And when they talk about the Civil War being brother against brother and father against son, they mean Maryland. They found that most of the officers stayed in the Union. A lot of the enlisted went south. There was the Maryland 1st Cavalry, there was the Maryland 1st Infantry, one gray, one blue. It really was brother against brother. Now, Maryland met at a couple battles, Brandywine Station and Cole Harbor, where Maryland from the north actually fought against Marylanders from the south. And that was a very tough situation because brothers did find each other on the battlefield. And that's why you find now our emblem is made of blue and gray because of our Civil War experience on fighting on both sides.
By the 1890s, most states had reorganized their militias, now calling them National Guards and giving them numerical designations.
The 29th Infantry, like I said, made up of Maryland and Virginia, National Guardsmen, went over in World War I and joined the American Expeditionary Force and fought during the Argonne Offensive near a place called Molesville Farm, which is just outside of Verdun, and took 23 miles of terrain and captured a very difficult emplacement. In World War II, the 29th Infantry really came into its own, where it landed on the first wave of D-Day, June 6, 1944, on Omaha Beach, to tremendous losses. But took the beach, opened up the beachhead, and fought with the Third Army for the rest of the war.
Not long after World War I, National Guard armories were built, reflecting this country's increasing concern for military preparedness.
The Guard is a hometown community force, and the units are spread out all over Maryland, and you needed a place to meet and house your equipment and arms. And that's where the armories formed, and they're built all over the state.
The main purpose of these armories was to provide a base of operations for the Maryland National Guard.
The military is constant training, and this is the base for the training. They could do close-order drill, they would meet, have musters, form up their unit, and they may go to, say, Fort Pickett or somewhere in Virginia to train, or somewhere in Pennsylvania to train. But this is their base of operation, and you need that. That's where the full-time members of the Guard keep records and house the unit, and this is its home.